many times, the recognition of how we view China is very different from my perspective of where we are from an economic, resource, cyber, and other types of aspects of warfare that's being launched against us. And unfortunately, for often far too long, we look at everything from kinetic ability. So this question's for you, Mr. Royal. When we're doing all this preparedness to try and identify how we can thwart the efforts of warfare from China's aggression, do we recognize them as anything greater than just a competitor, but as an actual adversary?
Congressman, the term that we use in the National Defense Strategy is the pacing challenge for the department.
Do we recognize them as anything other than a competitor?
Congressman, we can all get into different definitions of what is competitor, what is challenger, what is adversary. Pacing challenge is a term that we believe sets our sights on a trajectory that allows us to do what we need to do to be able to make sure that we are defending and deterring every single day.
Okay, well, why don't we frame it this way? How does the CCP view America?
I'd be happy to talk with you in a classified session about our assessments of the CCP.
Well, it's pretty simple. I think that when they're actually trying to go after us from an economic and resource perspective, or trying to eliminate the U.S. dollar from being a global currency to ensure they throw us in hyperinflation, they're trying to encircle us by utilizing the Road and Belt Initiative, as well as economic coercion in Panama and Honduras to control the tariffs and taxation of the Panama Canal, when they're actually releasing out of the Darien Gap the fentanyl that's killing tens of thousands of Americans every single year in America, when they're utilizing the marriage of convenience with Russia to try and advance themselves with the Chavez of Venezuela, Pedro of Colombia, and the Cubans, which are 90 miles off I am fairly confident they don't view us as a competitor or to outpace us, but as an adversary that they intend to utilize things like even the WHO and WEF to try and create this hegemony, which is what Chairman Xi is actually looking to do from the very beginning. In saying all that, let's talk about economic resource capability and capacity. Admiral, you've been very forthright with us, even in our closed-door session, on where we need to be at. In the event of a CCP invasion of Taiwan, what role would the Indian Ocean play in shipping critical supplies and resources to our partners and allies, and could the Indian Ocean supply chains constrain the PRC aggression?
Thanks, Congressman. So, again, no matter what would happen in the world, a free flow of product commerce to our allies and partners, and from the United States, right? It's not only the allies and partners and friends in the region, but it's the EU, it's the UK. We would come together to ensure that free flow of commerce could happen for all those nations, and it's also a vulnerability for the other side.
And that's exactly what I was getting to, which is that in identifying and trying to prevent, yes, we can continue to try and be a porcupine so that China looks at it and says it is not a viable option right now. But also I think exposing their vulnerabilities to track them away from the invasion to allow them to try and strengthen up their vulnerabilities, which could buy us the precious time that we need to get our industrial base where it has to be to support a war of this magnitude. And so have we looked at how we strengthen the quadrilateral agreements, or the Quad as it's referred to, with India to ensure that we have that capability to try and expose these vulnerabilities?
We're certainly working with our Indian partners both to advance our warfighting capabilities together, to ensure that we're sharing information that's needed. Again, we do have the same strategic competitor, or whatever definition we want to put on it. And in my time in the theater now for 5 years straight, it has increased exponentially. And again, it's trending in the right direction. They're really good partners.
I agree, and I think that our strengthening, as we saw under the Trump administration with Modi, it's to their economic advantage to weaken China's aggression from an economic coercive stance, but also it's to our advantage to find reliable resource and economic partners that we can conduct not only just trade, but security cooperations in the area to ensure that we have stability and operations that are sustainable for decades to come. Thank you so much, gentlemen. With that, I yield.